Howdy, I'm Joe, and I record myself doing these CSS battles. These are old ones. They're from let's see, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th of October 2023. I will try to solve them. I will try to get a 100% match, and I will try to say something intelligent, or at least make it entertaining for you to watch, should you find it entertaining to watch something like this. All right, so let's do it. What do we got here? This first one is some circles. The second one is just a zig and a zag, which is just part of just a zig maybe, and then we have this sort of parallel line affair going on there. All right, so let's do it. Let's do these shapes. All right, so I'm gonna start with the blank template. Normally I would really want to see this done as background gradients, exclusively background gradients, because that's kind of my favorite thing. But these borders really have me thinking border today. Let's see. And then we do an aspect ratio of 1, which sets our thing so that when we do a border radius of 1, or border radius of 50% rather, we get circles. And it looks like we will need the inner colors to be set. And it looks like that size is maybe right for the middle one, but not for the last one. So if we're going to, should we display flex? That's sort of the interesting question. I think that this last one is got a height of 100, and I think these other ones have a height of 5. Now, do we need display flex for this? Let's see, it's 50, is it 60? That certainly looks to be in the ballpark. So how far can we get with margins? Margins. 50 and 50, maybe 60 on that edge, 60, 70, 80, 90. All right, so that's lining up pretty well. Normally I would do a display flex and then a flex wrap, but I feel like I want to do margins here. So what does that look like if I do margins? So I've got the first one, and I do think it's lined up. And I think the biggest one has to be the last one, because it's going to be over the top of the others. But if I do, let's see, so rather than that, let's do a B and a C. And then by setting margins, we can place these exactly where we want to place them. So let's do that. So B and C attributes. C will now be the height of 100. And then I'm going to set a margin, of a var --m or 0 as a default. And so now I need to set an m of a set of values. There's 4 numbers associated with a margin, and you see what the effect of that 0 is doing in this case. Let's see, what do we need here? Okay, so we need to go negative. Minus 80, minus 100. And then a number over here of 100, let's say. So by manipulating these margin numbers, we can put things into place where we want to put them. And it looks like that set of numbers gets us where we'd like to be. And then this last one, what's that number? More, so probably another 120, 0, 0, 30. Okay. A little higher means more negative. And then a little bit more. And that seems as though it does what I want. So I have the background set, and I need that set. So because that's looking through, and there's no harm in having that background on all of the elements. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to submit this and make sure that we're getting 100% match, and then we'll be on to the next one. And we do. So I've got these plugins that I use to minify. I put these up on GitHub. They definitely need a little bit of work. They're not perfect, but I think they work pretty well. So, and I think that do I want to keep that aspect ratio 1? Yeah, I'll keep that aspect ratio 1 since we variabilized that number, the height. All right, let's resubmit and see if that's any better of a score that we need. Another thing we can do, so yeah, that is a better score. Sometimes you can collapse down those margin numbers a little bit, and in this case, no, we're not going to do that. But that's pretty fun, pretty good. All right, next we got the zigzag fellow. What is he? Definitely the interesting part is the little brown part. That's the hard part. The two brown guys are the things that we really want to do. So let's do our blank template. We're going to have that element have a color. Looks like we need a border radius on it of like what, 10, 20 pixels, let's say. And that, I think I am going to set, well, we definitely need to rotate it. Rotate. Let's do a var of --r or 45 degrees or minus 45 degrees, let's say. And let's see if we can get that going. We're going to put a background on the body. If I set this, height is too tall. How about 40, 50, 40? So I would like to move that into place. 20, 30, 40, 50. Ugh. So one of the tricky parts about this is getting the angles right, and I think that I'm going to set a height and width rather than, and I'm going to do a margin 0 auto, and maybe that's going to help us a little bit with the width. $50, $80. All right, so let's manipulate these sizes. If we can get a visual match for the height and width. Okay, so if it's 50, it's 20, 25. Is that the correct size? It seems like maybe it is. 90. So let's do margin. Again, manipulating our margins to try and get this into the right place. -5 is, oh, that's so close, very close, right? Like that's definitely on the close side. So when we add a second one, what happens? How do we do? All right, not too bad. Oh, even better, if we do a box shadow, we are gonna have a, that's also gonna be very nice. So let's set a box shadow of, okay, let's do that at 100, 100. Okay, 100 is too far over, and so because of the angle, tricky. So, you know, you gotta, visualizing these numbers is a little tricky. I also am a little bit concerned about the height of this guy. Maybe the width is wrong. Maybe it's 151, 52. Very tricky to get this right, to get the numbers right. And is that, so that is too big. That is too big. So 150, I think, was right, was correct. So let's go back to the 90 number. The other way to move things around in space here is using translate, right? Which gives you a lot of power over moving things after they've been set into the flow of the document. Somewhat painful to do this, right? Like, there's a trickiness to it, because we're moving this object in 2D space, but we also have this rotation, and so the box shadow is using, I think, the coordinates of the element itself, right? So it's relative, and since it's canted on its axis, it's a little trickier. Okay, so 100. So that's getting in the zone, but it's just not quite right. So ideally, we could set these numbers there we go. So 7 and 106. Kind of an oddball number. All right, and this is a great time for me to deploy a conic gradient, because we've already got the complexity of dealing with these two lozenges, right? They're sort of pills. So I know that I can do a conic gradient that's at, I don't know, 100 pixels, and I think it's the same height as those guys, so 50 pixels, and it's, the first color is the light color, and it's gonna take up 270 degrees, or 75%, and then I can move that into place. It looks like it's probably too short, so probably that's 120, maybe it's the same number, 150. So let's move him into place using background position, which is the next set of numbers here. So 40 pixels, 40 pixels, moves that down, 120, 120, 130, and then 50, 60, 70, 80, 100, 120. In the zone, maybe too low, so 128, 27, 26, 25. So I feel like these edges I don't quite have, but when I slide, it's very hard to see whether it's truly misaligned So we're going to submit and see if this is going to be okay. And that's 100%. So despite the fact that we've got these kind of edges here, I think what it's reporting is the anti-aliasing. That whatever the diff tool is sort of just showing you that edge, that hard edge, for aliasing rules, and not for a legitimate reason, really. So the visual tool comes second, and because of experience with this guy, I had some confidence that and this is a case where the margins, I can collapse that down a little bit. So if I just set the margin to 0 minus 5, that has the same effect as 0, 0, 0 minus 5. And so that's that guy. Next. So what's this guy? Is this another case for a box shadow? Probably not, because box shadow is not going to have that punch out effect. So is this time to deploy radial gradient? I think probably yes, radial gradient. But then the cross, how will we do the cross? If we do, so I feel very inclined to do a conic gradient to do that cross, but then that means I need to cover the rest of this, because otherwise I'm going to miss out on the repeat. But if I do the elements to be just to this edge with a gap, then I think that's going to have the same effect. So, all right, so I've said a lot of words. Let's write a little code. Okay, so let's start by hiding this guy, and we'll do the cross first. Since conic gradient is top of mind, since we did the last one. And he is 75% purple of the 75%. I guess that's purple, deep magenta, and then yellow. So there's that. That's the hard edge. And I want to have no repeat on him. And I want to set a size smaller than the canvas and a position at 0, 0. And that's the syntax. There's the position, slash, and then the size, and then the repeat. There are other things you can do with the shorthand syntax for background. That's what I'm doing right now. So let's see if we can get that into position. So width to 15, and then we want to be less tall. We want to make the crossways of the purple align perfectly with where it's going to repeat. So the height is 160, 170, 165. And then we move the at value, which is the center of that conic gradient. So 202 tall, 16. So we got the height is 165. So 145, 140. It might be 140. So it's 25 wide. That stripe. So that makes this 130, 140 rather. No. So it's just not quite right. Not quite right. Okay, so 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 185. Okay, and then this is 135. Okay. Now when I let this repeat, it will be the grid that I was talking about. Great. So this paragraph tag, I want to, yeah, so those are the two elements I'm going to work with. When I display flex, our background will be a radial gradient. Background radial gradient, yes, background radial gradient, which will be a circle, which has a middle of orange because we have to cover that cross. Circle, comma. Haha, I've forgotten the syntax for radial gradient. All right, it's like 10%, and then purple, And then so I'm going to start it with transparent. We're going to see if we can alter that radial gradient in such a way to cover exactly the way we want to cover it. So let's do that. And we do need to set a width, so you're not seeing anything yet. So let's actually set something. How about 200 for this first one? And the height is 300. And we do need a margin of 0 on this guy. All right, radial gradient circle. And we've got bad code. So there's our radial gradient. We do need to set a margin of 0 for both the body and the paragraph tag. So we set a margin 0. Okay, now. So right now that's dead center. I'm setting that like so. And that is the dead centeredness is I'm going to take advantage of. Pixels, 60 pixels. All right. So when we add another one, we cover both. Now, what about that stripe? What about that stripe? You got to do something about that stripe because right now we've got that problem. Now, we have the repeating gradient for the cross that we like, but we have this, which is a problem. So if we set this to pink, is there a way to manipulate this radial gradient so that it does exactly what I want? So I only want it to go halfway for these colors. I can add another linear gradient, but can I manipulate this in such a way that I set a width? And I think I can. If I set a width to it. And so if the width is 200, I think we're going out to what? To 150? So 150 pixels of width, and then a no repeat. And that gives us the cover that we want. Now, the second one of these paragraph tags has to be flopped. So to do that, we will do scale -1, which does exactly what we want it to do. So that width, 1.4, 1.5, and if I change the at value to that, I can go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 100. So we need to make it a little bit wider. Oh, and can we do it? Maybe we can't do this. We might not be able to do this. 59, 58. That's doing the cover that we want. And we're going to swap out the pink, which is currently our... Let's see if that's 100%. I'm not seeing a diff, but it's a little tricky where this circle meets the crossbar here, and we do have it. So that's great. That's a lot of fun. And we minify, and we resubmit, and is that a good score? Let's find out. Super fun. Super relatively straightforward. A lot of concepts there going on, but very enjoyable little puzzle. And again, lots of ways to do this one. You could also do the two elements and have them be circles with borders. That's a totally legitimate way to go. Maybe be shorter. And there's plenty shorter ways to write that code, but that's the way I solved it. Thanks for watching. Go make something cool with CSS today, and take care. Bye-bye.